Record. So, Coach the Coaches, seminar number 1, what we do and why we do it. I think this is coming off of a lot of what we were talking about yesterday. And I know you guys, I've already said this, but literally what I have here is, if you have not heard this information before, I don't know if this is phrased right, but I would be surprised, right? I want you guys, anybody on staff, to hear this stuff over and over and over to make sure that it's sinking in, because there is a really significant difference in if this stuff is applied and the environment that we create for everyone and how people feel when they come in here versus, we ended up having some talks about Ninja Nation yesterday and coaches leaving there over time, and there's been a lot of high-level coaches that have worked there, and they all left fairly quickly because it's got this corporate environment that doesn't feel very good, and I don't ever want to have something like that. All right, so I said it's a part of our company mission statement. It's a part of our new branding that we've been talking about. Warrior Playground, where you belong, or unless you guys come up with something better or different, totally. But it's I really want people to have that feeling, even if that's not the branding that we use. I want them to have that feeling here. So this seminar is all about how we work with our students, how we care for them, how we get them to, or help them to excel. So I wrote, it's about how we coach, not what we coach. We need to always be energetic and present, especially with one-on-one sessions, whether that is a skills like Walter, or if that is something like a personal training session. If it's possible, you're in the lobby waiting for them, to greet them, to welcome them into this environment. And if it's a group and you have that opportunity, you're like right up front, so when they walk in, because Will's greeting them in the lobby, but you're going to greet them as they come in, hopefully, right? And sometimes that can't happen because you got back-to-back sessions, but anytime there's that opportunity, you want to do that, because that kind of sets the tone and gets things started. Blah, 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 blah. So imagine your tone if you're having a bad day or you're pissed off about something, and they feel that energy, or they literally see that look on your face, because I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen that in people. And that doesn't feel good if somebody's walking in and seeing that look on your face. So they don't need to know your business. And if it's something serious, maybe you shouldn't be here. And so if there is something serious, you let us know, and we do what we can to sub or cancel the class or something. But if it's something that you can put on hold so that the customer has a great experience, great. Like, they should be able to lean on us. We shouldn't lean on them. And this gets more in with private training again, but it's an important thing. And so if we have that energy that brings them up, so that when they walk out of here, they're feeling better, that's going to make them feel like they belong. Like they're going to want to come back. So I'm like reading, and I'm also going off script, as you can tell. But I wanted to at least have this information. So provide an environment that's welcoming and nurturing. The most essential foundational skills that we teach to all levels, but we certainly emphasize it more for beginners and new students, because a new student might not be a beginner, potentially. Building a love for movement and having fun. So I put that in one category, right? And again, going back to our energy levels, if we are playful, if we, not all the time, but a little bit of the time, figure out the percentage that works well for your students. There's no set formula, but if you're a little goofy or you play some games with them periodically, I've had over the years so many coaches be like, do we give them 10 minutes or 15 minutes of free time at the end? No. Like, they're paying for a lesson. Yeah. If you're giving them some kind of structured play, cool. If you are going to give them some free time, it's like 5 minutes max, and that's once every 4 sessions. So no more than 25% of the time. And you're only doing that if for some reason, which you never should be, out of material, or you feel like that's what they really want and they've been behaving well and you know they value that, and so you give that every now and then. But 5 minutes is enough. So building a love for movement and making sure they're having fun. Find the way that works for them, that works for you, that matches your personality, so you don't feel like you're doing something that is work, you know. Next is resilience and attitude. So I've actually gone into some details on these, so let me see if I skipped over, because that was, again, just off the top of my head. So I wrote, it's all about how we care for our students and how we help them build a love for movement, which then inspires them to exercise through the act of playing, which I absolutely love, and literally that's what I wrote. If we as coaches can read the energy of our students and can adapt our workouts to meet their fluctuating needs on any given day, because you don't know what personalities necessarily walking through the door, and the best example of that is Glenn's 315 today.
Yeah.
You've seen the extremes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen him, but he's
Yeah.
I hate you,
Yeah.
or I love you.
Yeah.
And like, he's the sweetest kid when he's in the I love you stage.
Yeah.
And he's challenging to work with when he's in the I hate you stage, and he doesn't listen and he wanders off and all kinds of things, which is why he's doing privates instead of group now. So to be able to read the energy of our student or students and maybe change your plan a little bit based on what is in front of you. Maybe somebody's or the group's energy is really low, or maybe it's too crazy and you need to bring it down instead of trying to bring it up. That happens in birthday parties. So like kind of paying attention to that. But overall, I wrote, then we can help elevate their experience to a point that makes them feel like they are gaining energy, having fun, building confidence, just by being around us, which goes back to, which then has them feel like they belong. All right, so that was part of the building love for movement. Now to the resilience one, because I forgot I wrote these paragraphs. We also help them build resilience by teaching them the importance of getting back up and trying again. So there is whatever Japanese term that I mix up. I want to say it's gambare. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not, but it might be wrong. But there is a term that is the translation is fall down 7, get up 8 times.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the word is off the top of my head, but the translation is fall down 7, get up. You're always getting up and trying again.
It's in the summer camp curriculum.
Yeah, it is. And that's because it was important to me.
Yeah.
That's why I put it in there. So on that concept, we're teaching them to understand that failure is a part of the learning process, and failure doesn't actually exist or even happen if you keep trying. It only happens when you quit. So if they can kind of understand that never give up concept, then they just kind of look at it as, this is part of learning. I failed 1,000 times, but maybe that 1,001st try is when I'm going to get it. And with Ethan, probably once a year, I remind him of a story that there was this kid that I had found because I wanted to instill this in Ethan back when I first started, because he's struggled with those types of challenges, the way his mind works. And so I showed him this video of this kid that was trying to do a backflip, and he attempted it 267 times in one day.
Oh
before he finally got it. But he taught himself a backflip and how to put backflip on his own in one day.
Lucky he didn't get hurt.
Yeah, lucky he didn't get hurt. He had like a mattress, and he was just standing outside in the grass with a mattress, and eventually he got it. 267, and that sticks in my head because that's impressive. Most people would give up after a few tries.
Yeah, I do 5, and I'm like, I'm
even
not
like
gonna land one
it's
now
also
because I'm
tiring.
tired.
Like, imagine 100 tries.
Yeah.
And you're like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And that kid kept going. He did another 100, and he kept going. He did 250, and he kept going because he kept failing. So like, that is some serious resilience.
Yeah.
And so like, if we can help communicate that to the kids, and again, reading your crowd, reading your audience, maybe it's just one kid, you're trying a particular move that maybe it was a little bit too challenging for them, and now they're getting frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have those alternative techniques that we talked about yesterday with like 5 different, which we'll go into this a little bit more later, like 5 different ways that you could work on that particular skill so that kid can still do it. Or how many regressions, little baby steps backwards and forwards can you do with each and every skill so that you can help them learn and progress at a safe level.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can't do that, injuries are more likely. If we can't do that, frustration levels will elevate, and then they might be more likely to quit. So we really want to be able to read them and kind of figure that out. What else did I say on there? So as long as they can shift their attitude into, I just need one more try, then we are giving them information, basically, that can change how they approach every aspect of their entire life, right? Is that not true?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you kind of learn as a child, especially kids under the age of 8, are sponges absorbing everything and attitudes, and this can literally, because I've worked with people in personal training where I'm essentially a counselor, psychologist. They're like, thank you for the therapy session. And I've come across all kinds of situations, and I've read all kinds of books on this stuff too. And so like people really have to work hard and usually get some outside help to overcome things that happened to them when they were a child.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it might be the attitude of a teacher or a parent who did something to them in a way, like maybe it was not meant to be harmful or mean, but it was said and the kid was hurt by it. And then they hold on to that feeling for their life.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that situation comes up again, they just shut down or they lash out or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they never get to experience the benefit. So we have an opportunity literally to change that. But if we can inspire them to just get up and try again and understand that they're not failing, and then maybe when they get fired from some job or they break up with a significant other, they're like, all right, cool, I'll move on. Yeah, try again. Find a new job, find a new mate. You know? So that's a big deal. All right, next one was listening and behavior and communication. So listening behavior is essential. If students aren't paying attention, this will prevent them or others from gaining any of the skills that we're trying to teach them,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think I stressed to both of you about this because we had that one boy that was working with one of the coaches while another kid was running around. The coach got distracted and the kid fell off the monkey bars and slipped right through the coach's hand. So the coach was in the right position to catch the kid, doing everything, but took his attention off of the child, and the child slipped through his hands right at that moment when he took his attention off. You never know when that's going to happen. So, yeah, have expectations of and demands of your students, enforce them in a kind way, use the strikes system, but make sure that they are not putting themselves or someone else in harm by not listening. It's just simple thing as that, right? What else do I have here? As coaches, if we do not have expectations, see, I'm like going off what it's written, that we demand from our students, then we will have a challenging time teaching them, and we may allow a student to distract ourselves or others in ways that can cause issues such as safety or poor behavior, higher dropout rates, because I've had parents report to me because their kids are reporting to them that so-and-so is a troublesome, and I want my kid out of that group. If that ever happens, that means we as coaches are not enforcing well enough, because if it ever gets bad enough, that's a communication issue that the coach needs to report to me or Claire, or directly to the parents at pickup that, hey, little Johnny was really being mean to others today. And like you told me something about, I'm trying not to say too many names on this, but right? So like, you want to address that right away so that we make sure that that's not a trend and that doesn't happen over and over, and now that kid feels picked on and doesn't want to come back at all. Total side note on this, but related. we had a coach working here who I thought was doing a great job, but I had 3 reports from parents that totally different days and different types of situations, but kind of the same thing, where their child did not feel welcome here because their child came in to take a class and the coach didn't like gather all the kids up and welcome them in and introduce. I think 2 of these situations were brand new kids, didn't introduce them to the other students in the group, right? So I made a point I had a new kid yesterday, and I was like, hey, everybody, this is this boy, and then I named all of them, so to introduce them and let them kind of feel like more welcomed into the group. And that was particularly important because that boy was being very shy and sitting off, not wanting to join quite yet. And then after he saw them running the warp wall for a few minutes, he jumped right in. But like making them feel welcome in that way is important. So then I wrote, therefore, as a coach, your communication skills with students, parents, other coaches, and management is critical. Weekly reports, homework assignments, general updates are a huge part of your responsibilities. We sometimes have issues that we need to address, and if that gets swept under the rug rather than being dealt with, so somebody's doing something and we're like, maybe it'll go away, usually comes back worse. So it's usually way easier to deal with early on than letting it go, and the repercussions are usually much less if we take care of that. And then we might end up losing a student, or somebody gets hurt, or somebody's feelings are hurt, or anything. It tarnishes the experience here. So then the next section was SMART training, and this is about SMART progressions and regressions. So I wrote, it's all about how we build confidence with carefully structured progressions and regressions. Now, this is the majority of the stuff that I've been focusing on with you guys, not this other stuff, in terms of like making sure you're ready to coach, right? So all the beginner skills that we teach versus how we test a little differently for advanced beginner, versus how we would progress and work with kids during teen. We're trying to put all of those little baby steps in place so that we're not progressing them too fast, which could lead to injury. We're also asking our students to master whatever that prior level skill is before we move them to the next one, right? We don't start off with a 10-foot lache. We start off with maybe a 4-foot lache and build up slowly. And we certainly don't go to a lache to like rings and various other things. So carefully structured progressions and regressions, noticing if somebody's having a hard time with something, here's an alternative way to do it. They're designed to help build both physically stronger athletes and help them mentally, so that we're helping them overcome fears. If we try to progress too hard and too fast and we scare them, which apparently has been happening in team a little bit with certain aspects of laches. In talking with the coaches, it seems like there's some issues with some of the kids in team are having some fears of doing some moves. So they're working on it, and they need to push them more. That's what team is.
Yeah.
It's not the same as just the having fun stuff that we're doing. What else we got in here? Overcome fears. Regressions are used to prevent students who have not mastered a technique to have alternative ways to work on that technique. See, I go off topic and it comes right back. Learning at least 5 ways to work on a particular skill with small incremental changes will give you the ability to coach any single skill for 10 to 15 minutes. Which I told that to all camp instructors this year. I said, listen, I want you guys to learn these things so well that you can coach just 1 or maybe 2 for 10 or 15 minutes. Because if you can do that, then you can easily get through a half an hour section and have like 3 or 4 skills in there, and not quite hit 10 minutes for each one, but still be able to have enough content to use to work that zone and then rotate those kids through and then get the next kids through. So like that is something that I would recommend, practicing your flow of how you go through the skills, like maybe even playing around yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to work on this, this, and this, and it's going to take me 30 minutes to do that. Can you do that? Right? And pay attention to the energy levels of the kids as you're doing this, because like sometimes their hands get really tired and sore. And maybe you need to, I always alternate between upper body and lower body as much as I possibly can so that their hands don't get beat up too much. give them rest breaks at the appropriate times. Pay attention if they're standing around too much versus if you got them moving a lot. And sometimes after something that's maybe more vigorous or challenging on their grip, maybe it is good to let them stand around a little bit so they can have some recovery time, especially if you're going back to anything that's still including upper body. So I wrote, this is a key quality of an experienced coach. When you're capable of this, your athletes will develop skills at a faster rate. Balance and grip training are the two most important of the actual skills, right? Pieces for their development, because without them, everything else is so much harder, right? You got no grip, you can't do monkey bars. That's like one of the simplest things. And you got no balance, well, you're going to have a hard time on all the balance courses.
Yeah.
Throw some fear of heights in there, and now
you're
right?
gone.
It makes it really tough to do ninja. But we have people like that, and they work through it, and they get better. So the summary here, this Coach the Coaches seminar is the first time that I am requiring coaches to follow my protocols, right? This is part of it. We're going to go in depth with everything else so that like you guys get really comfortable and familiar. Like Michael, you said that, you know, doing the advanced beginner stuff now is going to be newer for you because you've been focusing on beginner. So we're going to kind of step up yours. You've got the beginner down, but now we want to get you up to the advanced beginner level and then beyond there. And you're definitely playing around with stuff. Yeah. It's just getting you super comfortable with coaching it and testing it. But like overall, I want to make sure that I give you guys all the tools you could possibly need to be successful with this and have your students do really well. And like, I'll just read what I wrote because it's a pretty good summary. I said, for years, I have both trained and allowed the coaches at the Warrior Playground to use my methods as well as their own. And I have chosen to do this because I was very present on the obstacle floor, right? At the first gym, I was doing everything. And then I had John, who's an amazing coach and runs Ninja Intensity now. He was helping on the weekends. And then I brought in some guys that were phenomenal. Mike is one of them. That's our picture of Mike. And he had no ninja experience, but he was from back east with me, and he was a great athlete overall, and he picked up on everything so well, and he also had an exercise science background. And then we had Mitch and Austin who came in, who were amazing natural talents, but they learned from me and with me, and then we taught each other, and we all trained together, and we were all there all the time. So they knew the system inside and out, and they actually helped develop the system. And then Glenn came on board, and then Joey came on board, and they learned it as well. And then I started, as we moved over here, I started backing off a little bit, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And then, I don't know, I feel like some things have shifted. We've had other coaches as well, but like, I want to kind of like focus it again. And again, I'll read this because it's a simple summary. I said I worked closely with them for 3 to 5 years. After that, I started running the business more, and I saw them adapt more to their own style. Mostly was good, but I felt like some things were lost. And so therefore, because I know a lot of shit and have more experience as a coach in the ninja world, probably than anyone in the industry. I mean, I've been a coach for 27 years, and I've been in obstacle training for 10 years. I exercise science bachelor's and master's, and was certified strength coach through the NSCA for 25 years. So that's a pretty long time. I think I got some good knowledge. Yeah. And the coaches that we've had come through here, and some of the athletes that we've had come through here, have been some of the best in the world. So like, yeah, I think we got some good stuff going on here. Yeah. I want to share that and make sure that it's being done so that everyone can really excel. So I was like, I would like to have you all follow my protocols. It will give you a structure, which is helpful. And I think it'll help the program just continue to elevate. That being said, I don't know everything. And anyone can come up with a fantastic idea that I'm going to be like, whoa, yeah, let's do that. So don't ever feel like I'm acting like I know everything or that I think I know everything, because I know I don't. And I am always open to hearing, like, what ideas do you guys have on any aspect. And so, like, if we think of skills, let me not rephrase that. If we think of training for obstacle sports, there's a difference between ninja and Spartan. And so with ninja, sure, grip strength, super important, balance, super important. Those are the keys, right? Conditioning, very important. All three of those are very important in Spartan, but balance is not as much. It's not used as much. And grip, you don't need as much. It's so much easier to do the grip stuff in Spartan. But conditioning is just as important, but a lot different. You're talking a race that's taking a minimum of a half an hour, sometimes 2 hours for people.
Yeah.
And, 5K, 10K, I think there's like a half marathon or 15K or something. So, like, way longer distances and way more obstacles, 20 plus obstacles. Ninja, 6 to 12 obstacles, a few minutes max, so totally different type of conditioning. Strength training, also super important. Mobility training, also super important. Rotator cuff work, I call it prehab training, trying to make sure that you've increased your mobility and stability of the joint before you start swinging around on everything, so that you reduce the chance of injury. And I'm probably forgetting one or two things, but there's a whole bunch, right? And the actual skills training.
Yeah.
That's a good one too, right? So, like, a lot of athletes get caught up in just actual skills training and don't understand the purpose of all the other ones. When they're younger, it's not that big a deal, but when they're actually competing and they're, 10 plus years old, it's super important to get all of that done. And it's confusing for most people to figure out, how do I piece that all together? How do I fit that all in a week?
Yeah.
And still have some rest so that you're not overtraining and injuring yourself. And, like, I found for myself, and so I categorize this as over 35 and or injured. 2 days of skills is all you should do per week. If you're under 35 and you don't have injuries, you probably do 4 if you want. But you still want to make sure that you're getting in enough strength, enough conditioning. And so, like, I think the volume of skills training should actually be dependent on how well you can fit all the other pieces in. And conditioning can certainly be running a ninja course repeatedly. That's conditioning. And, man, that's skills training too. So that's a good way to combine, which reduces the volume that you're doing. And I think that's a great thing for kids to do. Let's see. This isn't part of it, but I printed it out and I don't know if I told you guys this, so I'll tell you now. After the meeting yesterday, Claire and I were talking last night, and she's like, "Man, we have a great staff." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I really enjoyed our welcome to the Warrior Playground staff meeting. So I think this was my summary after talking with her. I was like, then I quoted Claire, "We really have a great staff of people who care about our mission." And then I was like, "Yeah, we do." And, like, it's the truth, like I thought that was a great meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think everybody connected really well, and you guys know the purpose of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think I'll give you all a copy of this. You guys too.
Yeah.
Well, what's also really cool here is that we all do have, like, different backgrounds. Like, we all have different things to bring to the table, but we're all, like, trained to do the same thing.
We're training to do that, but we come from a different specialization, which is good because there's so much variety in this sport that you can't just have one singular approach. It's very diverse, and to rotate around with things can be very beneficial and prevents it from getting stale. Like, that's actually, talking about rotation of obstacles, rotation of the floor, the general setup, especially because Glenn isn't going to be doing it for too much longer, right? So paying attention to how the floor gets set up so that you guys feel comfortable with that as well. And so that's where that sheet that he created is going to be super helpful. And like you can kind of look at the sections, because there's beginner, advanced beginner, and intermediate levels, and then there's like lower body versus upper body, and there's like maybe 5 things at each section, and okay, let's do this and this during this week, and let's do this one and this one, and then the following week we'll do these 2 and we'll do these, and you have like a formula that you can follow just by using that spreadsheet. And that allows us to make sure we're teaching all the skills, especially the ones that are going to get tested on. And that allows us to really have something more interesting to do than just train on the same exact thing every single time.
Yeah.
And of course, that's going to be better for the students as well, because they're going to get more out of that and they're going to enjoy that. Some people just like variety for the sake of variety. Usually those people need to be taught that repetition is important and you actually excel when you repeat enough. But there's a little bit of a mix here.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn this off now.